back online. We'll go to our next.
Chairman, we're live.
Okay, welcome back. We're out of executive, no action taken. Our next agenda item is not an action item. This is a EMS fiscal year 24 budget workshop. And I'm kind of assuming we're gonna do a little bit more than what we did last year. What was it, Doug? It was 1.2 million? But you got them
Chairman,
up
what's
there?
on the board is the L2 worksheet for the Valley County EMS district. And I apologize, it's kind of small, but the maximum amount that the Valley County EMS district can levy is $1,316,990.
Now, is this the district as it sits today?
As it sits today, right now, that would be the maximum allowed that the Valley County EMS district could levy on property tax dollars.
We have no foregone, correct?
There is $3,375 in foregone because I did the calculations incorrect right now. Basically what that is the personal property replacement dollars.
Okay.
So there is $3,375 in foregone that can be brought on to the amount to be levied.
And then Doug, do we still have that little reserve account for EMS?
So right now, Mr. Chairman, bear with me.
61,000 or 67? What was that? And we were using that for, oh, I think it was ambulances or something?
Well, that's one portion of it when they applied for grants, and there's also some software that's being paid out of that.
Okay. So I guess what we'll do is you guys, anybody want to comment on this or what's the plan? Are you good with this? Give me your feelings here. Whoever wants to go first, come up to the mic.
Assuming they have a budget for us. You
Well,
guys
look
have
at our
budgets?
budgets,
Yeah.
usually that's what you
Yep.
do.
We got that in here, Sherry?
You bring everybody a copy. We can come down there.
Sure.
I'm not seeing,
I don't think we have their budgets.
I don't think we do either.
Here's one for you.
No,
Here's one
like
for
we didn't
you.
get anything up front, did we? So
Here's
no,
one
we
for
don't
you.
have anything.
I didn't think so.
The other two, Kelly?
Is this everybody's or just Donald?
It's Don.
That's just
That's Don.
This is Donald,
Don.
okay?
Don the Idaho.
Is that where it is?
Yeah. Sometimes
That's-
forget. That's where it is.
You only forget when you're asleep. Okay.
And commissioners, after the payments, the second half payment for this fiscal year is made. There will be $133,477 left in the EMS account.
Please say that number again.
$133,477.01.
I guess I can go first since I gave you our budget and review that with you. So currently this is, if you look at the top, this is the EMS personnel cost. It's sort of what we looked at last year. There is some changes because of increases in wages. So you're looking at total cost when we figure out how many hours, staffing per hour, benefit rates, total benefit rates, overtime coverage, which we don't have that in, only because we can't afford overtime coverage. So we're looking at 609, 691 for overall cost for EMS this year to have an ambulance available, 365. Again, still needed is what we're looking for in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, to get up to medium wage for the state of Idaho. So we're still pretty far off from that, probably $10 per hour for individuals. So when you move down into the revenues and expenditures, you're looking at what the EMS contract is, and that's what we did is we took $1,316,990, divided it by 3. And then I added $277,500 of additional funding with $60,000 revenue. And that comes out to $776,497. And then again, you can see the ambulance or the expenditures. So ambulance replacement fund, we did pay off the ambulance last year using a portion of the funds that were given last year, so we could save on interest. The reason it's still 99,106 is because I have a third ambulance that is not only a third ambulance to the district, but it's also being utilized as a reserve ambulance right now for the county. So everybody's using it when they have to have an ambulance go down, or it's our final ambulance to go out. If we have that many runs, it's done already twice this year. And it's gone out multiple times to each of the districts to use while other ambulances were out of service. So we need to get that replaced sooner rather than later. So I'm trying to save money the next 4 years to,
99, right?
yeah, trying to.
So you're needing the 99 replaced, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
that's just part of my replacement fund that I put in my expenditures for this year, because I'm trying to save enough money for the next 4 years to get one.
You get another ambulance.
To use another ambulance.
Ah,
'Cause we can't wait. The thing's old, and everybody's utilizing it more, and it's just, we need to get it replaced.
Now, when you say everybody is, these guys and these guys, everybody's,
Everybody's utilizing,
Using
McCall
that.
just used it, we
Yeah.
used it the week before, Cascades used it in the past.
We had to send an ambulance back to Washington to get work done for probably 3 weeks. So we used it as our
so it's kind of a backup.
backup, yeah.
We
He's
don't
got
have,
room to
we don't have
store
an
it.
issue in Donley doing that. It's just, we ended up keeping 3 while everybody went down to 2. And the only reason we did that is because when I was planning to get rid of it, I had an ambulance go down and my EMS captain was like, that's why we don't get rid of it. So then we've just kept it running, so just in case, and we've utilized it a lot since then.
Makes sense.
So anyway, when you add everything up and it's together, you're looking at the amount of expenditures and the amount of money in revenue.
Where's this money come
That's
from? That's
extra.
part of the million.
Mhm. So
You guys split it up that way.
we're asking for an additional from 250 to 277.5 from
Times
last
3.
year. Times
Well, for you,
for me and
Cascade and Donley would be
Cascade
the
and
same, the
Donley.
277.5,
both of them, okay?
and
Garrett, would you know?
Garrett would be.
Yeah, here's my stuff.
double that, and that's the number.
Double it? What?
Well,
This is double that number.
the
395?
no, here, I'll
No,
go
no,
through.
no, that's all right.
So anyway, that's my budget.
Okay.
You can go into, if you have, unless you have questions.
So the bump that we gave you, what did that do to the hiring? Tell me about how many people you were able to hire.
None.
So really, the higher salary wasn't the issue right now anyway.
What's your share?
The higher
Which
salary,
one is
if we were to go to, instead of 2449, which is what you've got right now on average, we went to 33. There's still no guarantee that you're gonna be able
Yeah,
to
so
hire at that.
this is last year.
So if there was something
You
where
guys gave us
we were to meet in the
500,000.
middle and see
So
if
you're
that
asking for
improves
this
your
this
hiring.
year?
So
Yes,
we raised ours the same time that Cascade did last year, so it would match. So we're like $10,000 under, from what we would asking for with, that would be the medium of, I think it's 71 right now, I'm paying 61. But what we utilized the money for last year was, we used it for retention recovery fund. So to keep the individuals in the volunteer staff that we have here, is what we utilized that funding, and we used a big portion of it to pay off the remainder of the current ambulance that we had, that we were making payments to, because it was gonna save us like $30,000 in interest instead of paying for another 3 years. So we paid it off, and then we used the remainder from the retention recovery fund. So we didn't really do much to try and hire, other than raise the 2 positions for medic that we have open from 50,000 to 60,000. And we
those
still
are
have,
open.
still open.
So I know that it's important to you to put an ambulance replacement fund in place. Should the new district go through, have you thought about, what that will allow you to do? Instead of doing it right now under the old structure, waiting until we get that new district in place, because it's gonna be substantially higher income for the district.
Well, currently it's the same interest for the district, same amount of income for the district as long until we get the levy rate approved. So then we might not get the levy rate approved. So here's how I usually do that. I consider that like a grant, and how I handle grants is that's anticipated cost, but it isn't cost that I can count on, so I still have to save the money as if it didn't happen. Now, the reason that's 99 is because we did have 40 some of that $1,000, but we added the cost of the ambulance that we would normally pay at $59,000. So that came out to the 99,106. So it was 59,106 a year. So we just added that to the cost, so we can continue to save for that ambulance. That's going to cost us almost $400,000 by the time we can afford it, because it's going up at a rapid rate. I can't remember what the Ford chassis went up to.
14%.
14% in just 1 year. So we're trying to capture that, because I can't wait for impact fees, and I can't wait for that, because we need the ambulance now. And
Well,
we've
I
been
understand
fortunate.
that. If the money's not there, we gotta figure out how do we compromise, you know, how do we try and get to that next step? And that's what I'm asking. What can we do to try and make it through this time? We're in a transition period. There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, based on, and we still, I mean, I think a meeting would be deserved to sit down and figure out what the total budget would look like for a new EMS district, so we can dial in what that levy rate increase would look like. Based on all the numbers that we've done so far, an ambulance district funded at the full levy rate would cover all three agencies paying the same wages and putting the ambulances on the same replacement schedule. So the dollar difference wouldn't be any different. If the county EMS system wants to have 6 ambulances on a 10 or 15-year rotation, the dollar allocation per year to replace them would be the same as it is this $99,000 that we each have.
But the
budgeted.
tax base would be there in order to do that. Right now,
Right.
the tax base is not
Correct.
there to do that.
Correct.
So trying to figure out how do we try and get there? How do we make it through this transition period until we can get the tax base that's gonna cover all the costs? And
Well, that's always a tough call, and we went through this last year and realized you guys were in a jam, and this is what keeps me awake at night, but I think we're gonna have to turn around and do the same thing this year. In fact, it looks to me like last year we did $1 million, it's gonna be like $1,134. And hopefully we can figure out a way to do that. What I'm trying to figure out is that if we double the levy rate, that's still not gonna be enough if we get that approved. The 0.04 is gonna be close to fully funding all 3 districts.
And replacement ambulance.
Based on our initial calculations, I think at a 400ths levy rate, based on new valuation that Mr. Miller gave us, it would cover the same model and put money away for ambulance replacement. Right?
and we are gonna have to do a full budget because we've gotta go out to the taxpayers and say, this is where this money's gonna go, or else it's never going to
Correct.
pass. You know, they need to know what's out there and what the, you know, how you guys are actually gonna spend that money. And I know that we're not there yet. There's still a lot of unknowns, but our PILT fund is down to $1.5 million. We don't have it.
Yeah, but we'll get more PILT fund here. When we get that, Doug.
We did just receive it. We're at 2,100,000 is what we have in.
We've got some of that already designated.
So let's see what the other budgets look like. So Conley, so Cascade is, so did you guys increase?
So
salaries?
yes,
How did you use the money?
we increased salaries as well to retain what we had, and we had a full-time firefighter EMT move on to a paramedic, so we filled our paramedic spot that way, and we opened and hired an EMT. And with the higher wage, we were able to get 6 applications
Oh, nice.
for that opening, which was quite a few for us.
So that's at the $28?
No, so this is where we would like to be. We're starting, we moved the starting wage to 19 right now for firefighter EMTs, and paramedic firefighters are 12% above that. This is where we would like to get to on this sheet that I handed out to you guys.
I would love for you to get there, and hopefully we're gonna have a levy that passes and allows us to do that.
Correct. Well,
But what can we do this year?
And that just shows the shortfall of what it would take to pay that wage in Cascade, the 137 short. And and this is more of an average of what we actually pay on the wages on the top there.
On the bottom is not just the shortfall, Sherry, though, that is, and that is still the shortfall after we're asking you for the additional 277.5 on top of what our L2 form shows.
So again, you're fully staffed at $19 an hour, plus,
Well,
So on that shows you, if you're looking at it, it shows you what our average,
our average
Cost.
wages of our
Because-
firefighter EMTs and average wage of
So
our
this
firefighter
isn't
paramedic.
average.
This is
That's
actual
actual, yes.
numbers right now.
okay, this
Those
is where
are-
you wanna get to, this is where you're at. right now.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And that's
And
showing.
then the extra 277.5 would go where?
Well, that shows income right here on top. The 716,495 is the income plus our EMS service revenue. which is total of-
We're asking
Meaning
for
$297.
$10,000 more than the million.
really, to make our budget.
To balance that budget would be, you're correct.
I got it.
It should be a million.
And Dot made the same way.
And that includes the ambulance capital replacement fund in that budget as
Well, that's not
well.
right either.
Should be $1,111,111.
Okay, so this is ambulance replacement.
Yeah, just that, one line item there, but an actual budget
And then this is your actual cost right now.
for staffing.
For this year. But for the levy
We
rate,
have
you're gonna
two
need
conversations going on,
3.4
and we're gonna have to repeat it all over again.
So when you figure that levy,
He was adding something wrong, I noticed it was the wrong number. All we're asking for is an additional $111,000 that we asked for last year of additional funding, which is $1,111,111.
Conley,
All of us together are asking
Total.
for an additional 110,000 from the million we had last year.
It's 275 for Dawn, or 277,500.
so you're
For-
asking for the income from the MS levy of $1,000,003, plus an additional $1,000,001. And that's what I'm saying, we don't have it. How are we gonna compromise on that?
you take it out of commissioner's salary. What can you guys do? Is that as tight as you can run it?
I mean, these are your wants, guys, I'm just saying.
This is-
No, there's
This
actual
isn't our
That-
wants,
needs
this is
in
my
there.
actual
That one's
budget.
actual
We got
expenses
'em
right
here, we
there.
got them paramedic level, we got them where we want 'em. We gotta keep them going, we can't cut back.
And you can look at ours, even, I put on the bottom, we've got this fiscal year, 2023 costs. Even last year with the 500, we're still running a $30,000 deficit. This year's a break even. And this doesn't even include, I was thinking today, it doesn't even include like our fuel costs for the ambulance. It's
Yeah.
literally the staffing model and the hard costs of providing an ambulance.
Right.
Correct.
I know it's a hard thing to swallow, Sherry, but you don't wanna quit when the votes.
So we've identified a problem, we've
Yeah.
identified a solution. And alls I'm asking is some kind of transition period through. Because where are we, you're gonna give away, not give away, you're gonna use all of the county's savings account for this. I mean, PILD has always been there, we were trying to make it a minimum $1,500,000, we're not spending below that. Because that's how we paid for Stibnite Road. I mean, we are being asked, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I'm being asked to use all the money in my savings account during a transition period. Because next year, hopefully, we're gonna make you guys whole by supporting a new program.
That's the,
And that's, I mean, that's all of our goal, is to try and get there.
right.
In the meantime, is there something that we can negotiate on so that I'm not giving all the county's savings away, I'm making you guys as whole as we can possibly get you. But I'm just saying, is this totally the bottom line, or are these where we wanna go after we get that in place? What can we hold off on short term until we get the new system in place, which will make you guys whole? It's gonna be great.
But my question is that, say we pass this levy, it goes into effect.
They don't get money
Next
until
year.
January of the following year.
24, 25.
January 25 we'll get.
January 25, so all.
So we gotta get them through till that revenue comes in.
We're talking more than 12 months.
Last year we gave them $1 million, this year they want $1,111,000. $1,110,000.
$1,054,000.
And we may just have to run really lean to get this done, but what I'm saying is they got everybody up to paramedic level, which is what we wanted them to do. And they're solvent, and they've got a fund to buy new ambulances set aside for that. We've got this $133,477 that's still left in the EMS budget, which I think could go towards some of this. So that would knock it down to around 900,000, somewhere around there. That's what we gotta do, it's what we gotta do.
Well, and I can show you in our case, so like the three of us sat down last week and discussed this. And like for McCall, we came up with $550,000 additional on top of the 438 levied amount. When I actually broke it down this week, it could, you know, the offset comes out to 578 that we're over, which is 28,000 more than the 550, which is what we're asking for, which still runs a $28,000 deficit to staff the ambulance. I think we're trying to like you said, Ms. Muffin, be collaborative and trying to work towards the same goal.
Garrett or Juan, whoever, Steve, is there any funds in fire that could subsidize some of this?
We already are subsidizing.
I know you are, but is there any more?
No, we were running a deficit budget.
Yeah, we don't have any additional funds in Cascade. We're showing with what our actual costs are, we're 20,000 in the hole, and that doesn't even cover, like Garrett said, we didn't even put fuel in there or not. I think this
Your
one
daily
there.
If we don't add the additional 277.5, I'm gonna be around 213,000 deficit.
Doug, what's your feelings?
Tough decision, commissioners.
Can I ask a question?
No, sorry, I can't take any more questions.
Is there a reason why we can't use ARPA funds to help support and sustain EMS? I mean,
I suppose.
I know
it
we
would
keep
be
talking
available.
PILT, but there should be additional funds available also to the county and ARPA funds. And if you look at the definition of what ARPA was for, and if you look at like what all of our surrounding counties have been doing, they are supporting their first responders, their EMS, their fire departments, their law enforcement. But for some reason, when we come to this table, we can't even talk about ARPA funds.
And that's honestly, it's a situation where we're trying to do some things with that ARPA fund, and we don't know what those costs are gonna be yet. Being close, hopefully within another month or two, we're gonna know what it's gonna take to move county shops. So some of the things we wanna do, I think there's gonna be a chunk of change left. But I'm not gonna
I
promise
would
that until I
caution
know what those
you
are.
commenting on that, Mr. Chairman, because realistically, you're gonna have about $6 million in ARPA or LACTA funds, because the ARPA dollars are pretty much, I've already been identified where are those gonna be expended. So the local action tribal monies is gonna be about 6,200,000 that I'm not gonna say have been designated, but are being set aside for master facilities plans. and capital improvements within the county that the commissioners were inclined to be utilizing those funds for. We are having a presentation from Clearwater Financial on the 14th to give the commissioners an overview of the master facilities plans and the recommendations by the Citizens Committee that was developed. So that is going to be conducted on the 14th.
And the difference, because I am familiar with what the other counties are doing with their ARPA. Those are one-time investments in physical assets. What we're talking about is long-term investments in human capital. But once you make that commitment to hire somebody at that wage, there has to be a way to sustain that moving forward. And ARPA is not a sustainable fund. And so that's where my concern is that we're committing wages into the future that we have no way of backfilling if this all, if the new levy doesn't. So it's not that we won't talk about ARPA or can't talk about ARPA. I want sustainability, and that was the whole point of digging deep on this thing and figuring out what's our sustainable pool. So those are one-time investment monies, and that's what a lot of the other districts around the area are doing. They're building a one-off shop, they're investing in physical assets.
So I guess my reply would be to that is you looked at our capital improvement plan for impact fees, and we have a reserve ambulance on that. You've noticed, and I just told you multiple times why we have the ambulance replacement fund, not only this meeting, but in other meetings. Because we need a reserve ambulance, so that is a piece of equipment, so why can't I get ARPA funds for that and get the county to have a reserve ambulance right now? Why can't I order one tomorrow?
You didn't ask for that. If that's what you're asking for, that's a part of the
That's a
conversation.
good point.
Well, the
You
thing
know,
is
that
we
would
try to
be
bring up
how much
ARPA funds and it always comes about that we shouldn't bring up ARPA funds, whether you're saying we can talk about it now. It's a little frustrating to me because I see ARPA funds going away and it isn't for infrastructure. It isn't for infrastructure. And infrastructure is at a dire need. I understand what you're spending money on and what your reasonings for that. I just don't agree with it.
There's lots of people that don't.
Have the cities been approached to see if you can utilize their ARPA dollars that have been allocated? That would just be a comment too. I don't know if that has been an approach.
Not much.
I understand that, but the thing is because we know what other counties are doing. I mean, Idaho Falls got a whole new fleet of ambulances. The county got half of a fleet of ambulances. There's been 1s and 5s and 3s and 2s all over the state replacing ambulances that need to be done. I'm not talking about an ambulance for Donley. I'm talking about an ambulance for the county. You've all been aware that we need a reserve ambulance for this entire year of doing impact fees, but yet we haven't allocated any funding for a reserve ambulance out of our fund. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think part of that was nobody brought that up to use that ARPA fund for that. Because that, to me, it's ARPA is a one-time shot. We get it and we use it for capital expenditures. That's what we're doing. And I think if you guys had come to us and said, because we don't think that way, if you say, hey, can we use ARPA for buying this extra ambulance? That would have been a whole different discussion. But nobody brought it up. And I'd have been for it. It was like, it just wasn't brought forward is all.
Well, I guess,
For that specific fund.
and that's part of the reason, but the other part, and I know this sounds kind of arrogant, but sitting in this chair, you have to look at everything in general as far as where we're really hurting the worst. Everything is hurting to a certain amount of degrees. And so you make that judgment call, and people may not agree with it, but that's what the decision was made. Now, if we end up spending $3 or $4 million of the lack of funds on a county shop and there's money left, then we could go back and look at it again. But I know Sherry had some money for a trust. There's some other programs that we're looking at as far as the broadband issue, which is a huge issue up here as well. I think we've got a state grant that's gonna cover most of that, but there's so many unknowns between now and in the end that it's hard to commit to anybody until you know exactly what you're gonna have. Everybody's want is the most important one, I can tell you that.
And I guess I'm biased because my entire life has been first response.
You're biased for first response, I understand that.
And that's probably because my entire adult life has been in a uniform for this county. I don't understand the inner workings of that. We just gave $300,000 away last week that wasn't infrastructure out of ARPA funds. We could use $300,000 to get a reserve ambulance.
But again,
And
want-
it doesn't make sense.
Everybody's want is the highest.
Well,
want.
their ask was 150,000 and you guys gave them an additional 150,000 out of
Anybody
ARPA
wants to run
funds.
for office, and you guys wanna make the
Well,
decision?
no, that's
step
fine.
up.
I'm
What
just
I'm
saying
trying to
we're-
do, and this is controversial again,
Mhm.
all I'm trying to do
No
is
matter what you
say,
do, somebody doesn't
how
like
doesn't
what
like
you
it.
did. We gotta buy a new van for the jail so they can, that's I don't remember, $120,000 van. Those are the priorities you have to look at first, and then go from there. And I understand, but that's not really a pickleball court, that's gonna be a county park. This is the first thing into that park, and I understand where you guys are coming from. Maybe that was a mistake on our side to fund that, but I don't think it was. I think honestly, when we get down to the end, we're gonna have some money left.
I'm not
Commissioners, you
asking
will
you to
have,
justify the money you spent. I'm just saying it's a little difficult for me sitting as chief and your emergency manager, and we're spending money on a non-infrastructure thing when infrastructure needs help. And not just fire and EMS, law enforcement, roads, everybody needs help with this funding. It was disconcerting to me. And that's one reason I brought it up. You don't have to justify your decisions to me, sir. Neither of you do. But I make those decisions every day too, because I'm a fire chief. I've been making them for almost 20 years, so I understand those decision processes that not everybody's gonna like all the time.
And I just wanna state to you guys too, there's a lot of things in this job that it takes a full conversation and a full picture to understand why we make the decisions that we make. And it's not just a one-off conversation. And so people judge us all the time based upon a one-off, what the impression is or perception is on the other side of the table. And it's a much deeper conversation. So I respect you for what you do. Please respect us for what we do too. I mean, every single decision we make is looked at entirely by the community. And so for every single conversation we have, there is an offset conversation that we get. And it's, it is difficult to be judged every time without full knowledge of what those decisions are behind the scenes. So I won't question you and what you guys do, but please, let's have a back and forth conversation. The only thing I'm trying to do is figure out, we got a transition period, is there anything we can do? That's the only conversation. If there's not, then we need to have a conversation together in the budget and figure out where we're gonna come up with this money.
Commissioners, based on my calculations, that the money that has not been allocated or promised from ARPA dollars is approximately 600,000.
That's
So that's a whole conversation to have, Doug, 'cause I don't-
Yeah, we need
haven't
to-
had that thorough conversation yet, but.
And that's one
Well,
of
that's,
the,
I'm just calculating your 1.1 million, or excuse me, the 1 million for the housing trust, right? The 350,000 for the commitment to the Valley County Pickleball Club. That will get you down to 766,000, and I believe that there were a few other commitments made.
So, but we have to look at the full 8.8.
Yeah, I always considered the life and ARPA all the same funds. Maybe that was wrong.
They're not.
They're not, it's two separate funds, but still.
no, and
One
another
thing-
issue we've talked about, I think it's worth bringing up here since the three of us are here, is like our radio infrastructure. We know there's millions of dollars in radio infrastructure needs that need to be,
And I
Like,
don't
we
know
have to
where we
figure
are
that
on any
out.
of that, Garrett. LEPC was, last time we met with those two consultant guys.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked to Kelly to find out what's going on with that. I don't
Okay.
know. That was the goal.
Yeah. no, but that project should be on the table when you're prioritizing stuff, cause there's a lot of radio needs that
So
are,
my understanding was that's fully funded through grants. And now I'm
Oh,
hearing
no.
that that's not.
The mountaintop repeaters are funded.
Not the
That's it.
radios.
Not to
So
upgrade.
upgrading to the new system of digital is not funded by any grants. There's no granting available. It's just the mountaintop repeaters that we're replacing that are still not digital, they're analog, just to keep our system going that we currently have today. And it costs us about, to do a control and repeater costs about 30,000, but that's in the next meeting that we. But I wanna get back to when we discussed this last year, and we discussed the possibility of transitioning to new stuff, it was brought up by you many times, Chairman Hasbrook, that you were gonna have to keep us afloat until that transition happened. So this would be one of those years we'd have to keep that transition afloat. And we're asking for an additional off the top of that, keeping afloat of $1 million is $110,000 so that we can split that money. Of additional cost because of inflation and all that. If you look at the last 2 years of inflation, we're at about 11%. So what did we do? We added 11% to the $1 million so we can try and catch up with some of the inflation costs that we're seeing across our boards on each one of our budgets. So that's how the $110,000 came. And I'm just using my premise on the $1 million of the additional is because you've said it multiple times as chair that we needed to continue funding this until this transition happened. And that's why it's in my budget.
And of course, the ultimate goal is to get the override passed, and that's gonna be an issue if it doesn't.
And I understand that
I don't
subject,
know
but
where
we're
we're
here to
gonna
talk,
go after
we're here to
that.
talk about the $1 million, the 110 that we're asking additionally, and the current levy rate that we're looking at, 1.316. Again, I can't rely on the possibility that we're gonna get a grant, or we're gonna get a levy rate passed.
Well, and as Doug knows, and these two know too, that I've been bringing this up for quite a while, that we're gonna have to figure out, find another $1 million for you guys. And we'll see what we can do. We have some possibilities, but like Sherry says, it's gonna squeak us down really tight. We're in the process right now of trying to figure out a way to get a civil engineer for the road department. That's $160,000 loaded wage job.
So what happens, I mean, realistically? Just- The voters just say, no, I don't wanna do it. We have an unsustainable future with what we're doing right now. We can't just kick out $1 million a year. So we're gonna have to come up with something different. How do we restructure? How do we do things differently? And if the taxpayer, let's pray that they pass the new district. But if they say no, it's kind of like, okay, where are our response times going? How are we billing differently? How are we going to look at this differently? Because I can tell you right now, and I've said it, he's saying, I'm gonna give you $1 million. I've said we don't have it since the last time we gave it. So I'm fiscally conservative. I don't like committing something to somebody when you are going to be paying wages to somebody. At the end of the day, it's not fair to them to keep yanking the rug, not certain if we're gonna fund them or not. And that's all I'm asking, is how are we gonna do it differently? And we're gonna have a hard conversation on this side of it, figure out how we do this. We don't even get $1 million a year in the public. We've absolutely reduced that down now to nothing. So we have no savings account in the county, and that's pretty scary. And again, ARPA does have some parameters around it. We can do things with it, but what we have talked about in the past is those are one-time investments. If there is a one-time investment that we can change some of this, then please talk to us about that.
And just an idea to spitball, I haven't talked to Chief Booney or Hole about this, but like if the county purchased an ambulance for a reserve from ARPA, today's dollars would cost about $250,000.
That's everything on it?
No,
No,
that's
that's just the machine.
yeah.
That's, yeah, the box with wheels.
They're about 400 total, depending on.
Well,
We did some shopping.
300.
3 something.
3 something, yeah. But $250 for the chassis and the box would be 23% of the 1,110,000 that we're collectively asking for. If we each dropped our ask by 23%, McCall's would be 423, and Donley and Cascade would be 213,000, which could come out of PILT with the 250 ambulance purchase out of ARPA. It's just a way to skin it a little different.
Well, and it does what you guys need. It gives us an immediate backup. And actually, Ron, if you maintain that third one, it really gives us 2 backups. One's getting old, but, you know, still, if there's life left in it, why not use it until it dies? I would feel much better about that than, I hate committing salaries when we don't have it, we don't know how we're gonna fund it. I mean, to me, that makes no sense whatsoever. And this next year is gonna be a challenge to get through, it is. I mean, there are some other funding mechanisms that we can look at once the new board comes on. There are some tax anticipation notes, I mean, there's some other ways to fund some of this until we get to the other side.
Well, she brought that up, I just wanted your guys' input on when we get the district passed, when we get the override passed. We've got an appointment of a new board. And I'm assuming each one of you guys will make a recommendation of names or name to us for that board.
Yep.
So you're in that loop.
Yep.
It would be good to have a special meeting just to talk about that process and the money, the dollar amount, and how we're gonna market it, and who's gonna be the spokespeople, and
Well, and honestly, with this job, I'm relying on you guys to help sell that election. All that, they override everything. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a-
You
But
guys
we
are gonna
need-
have to
we-
sell
we-
this.
We are gonna need to come up with, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Miller, tentative budget, right, and dollar amount that's gonna have to go on the ballot, and I think we're gonna have to be able to justify it, and all of us sing the same tune, and so if we could have a meeting to figure that out, it'd be wise.
We'll get a workshop on quickly as we can, because we're already there, we'll bring our PR person, Lindsay Kramer,
Right.
to help us get some marketing done, she's already on board.
Well, that's what I was figuring earlier, roughly figured it, you're getting roughly, what was it, 1.3 million now through taxes, so you're gonna need about 3.4 million, 3.6 million.
I hate to put anything out there, honestly.
So you're
I mean,
looking
we need
at
a
$2 more
combined
million,
budget.
probably, $2 more million to raise the funds that you would need now with this new levy.
I hate to put anything out there, I wanna see a
Yes.
budget. You know, put a budget together.
Yeah,
that would be
We don't
good.
want the newspaper printing something that's not correct at the end of the day, let's just give them one number, let's just do a workshop. Make sure that it gets out correctly.
We don't want too many people asking for things on the next election, or it'll just muddy the waters.
Just on
This
November,
sort of things, yeah.
so that's,
You don't want a hospital, you don't want this, you don't want that, just fire. That might sell easier. I don't know, I just know that.
Overrides are tough in this state.
Yeah.
They don't have a very good one time you're done thing.
don't tell the newspaper.
I ain't telling them, I don't even talk
They're
to
on
them.
the other end of the phone.
You didn't hear this.
I'm still training you, there's a sign up there, be careful.
Pulls 250
When you're
out of
recording.
You guys, I don't mean to be controversial, I just want you to know. I just
No,
want
and
sustainable.
I totally understand where you're
Oh,
coming
yeah.
from. I don't think we are either, we're
Hold
just,
this thing apart
I'm
more
trying
ways
to
than.
Yeah, but I
think of a
appreciate,
different way to skin the cat.
I appreciate that option, Gary, because that is, another way of doing the same thing.
Yeah, or 300 out of ARPA towards the ambulance replacement, which drops that pill to 810.
810,000,
Right.
which is a lot easier to swallow.
Whatever we need that needs to be sustainable. That's what those for. We have to backfill a budget, it comes out of pill.
I'm really kind of excited that you guys are at paramedic level. I think that's awesome. It took a long time to get there. I'm
Yes,
really
it
proud of
did.
that fact. And it's just like at home or at farm, you gotta figure out how to do this, and sometimes you gotta roll the dice.
When I first got here and I saw you guys, it was like,
Well, when you want an ambulance,
Yes.
you want an ambulance.
It's still a struggle trying to
Increased every
trying to
year,
increase to.
going backwards, unfortunately,
let's
that's.
live up in this country, yeah.
Living with that now.
I lost 3 men.
Been doing it forever.
I'm
I've
sure.
always been backwards.
Limping. Okay, are we done? Thanks you guys for coming in. No hard feelings. We're all friends at the end of the day.
Let me
We're gonna make this work.
let me do a little more math.
Jared's double checking his math here.
Is he doing higher math?
We're gonna make this work with the support of the community, because the community understands that we are behind the eight ball.
You got 812?
yeah.
No,
And
my other-
we're not
other
going to be able to
way to
provide the
skin
services
this.
that we're currently providing if the new levy doesn't pass. Period. You know, you're gonna make a choice on the quality of your EMS services, ambulance services in Valley County
Oh, for sure.
at this next vote. And so if it doesn't go through, we're gonna have hard conversations.
So for clarification, generally, I have to publish because my, thing is on the 30th, my public hearing. And generally, during the public hearing, we post the EMS budget that's on this EMS budget. I usually post that as well. So I only have a couple of weeks. So when will we have this number?
At 3:00.
Oh, today? Okay.
We've got to publish too, so we're like.
We're
right there.
proposing to publish on the 14th of August. Is what we'd like to. Technically, the county's only
That
have
was
to
all, I just-
publish.
Because my
We gotta
commissioners are gonna be
continue the
asking
conversation with
Wednesday,
the rest
where's
of it.
that publication?
Where is that? Yeah. We have to do a bid opening for janitorial, and then we're gonna
We
move into the
expect no
county budget.
expenses, there's the emergency manager.
Wa-
You have a
Juan's
conflict
got
of
the-
interest.
Chairman Chief Bonilla's got a matter.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Okay, you're gonna do the EMS?
Yeah, I got to do EM now.
I run this by
You
you.
go ahead, sir.
Gonna do emergency manager for
To
free.
be another way to do it is to take all the allocation for ambulance funds, 99,108 times 3, which is 297,318 out of ARPA. Put them in the EMS fund earmarked towards ambulance replacement, and then that would reduce each ask by $99,108
For a total of what, 8?
for a total of. Where did I write it down? Oops.
859 is all of it together, isn't it?
I'll go fast.
812,682,
1262.
682
Six.
out of PILT and 297,318 out of ARPA,
Okay, sure.
which would reduce it to 458,92 for McCall and 178,392 for County Cascade. Just another way to get to the same thing, but they're different.
Okay,
I'll try and run through this fast for the EM stuff and the MRA costs. Seems like I always talk about cost up here.
You're doing it for free, I just told you.
All right, so we'll start with the mobile risk assessment and its cost. A couple of things is I just gave you the budget. So for next year, we're looking at $66,000, and that's because it includes about $12,000 for the portal to be designed and upgraded of the current portal that we have to make it more accessible. And we already have, that's going to go through Cara Utter and her company, which already utilizing her for GIS here. So she can take a lot of what she's learned from here and the county assets to incorporate it into the mobile risk assessment data. And then for additional years out of SRS funding, we're looking for the $48,000 a year so we can continue to upgrade, add things to the portal, and have actual individuals going out and doing those site surveys at each of the districts as we move forward. So I'm doing what I'm asked, and one is I got the contract approved and went through everything with the prosecutor, Mr. Oki, and he and Cara talked and worked out all the issues. So you should have received a copy of that EMS contract to be signed today, and then the additional cost of the 48. You asked for that as well, how much it was going to cost annually, so we can make sure that's earmarked in SRS funding as long as we have SRS funding.
Is that PIL, Doug, or SRS?
SRS.
Is it
It would be
SRS?
Title III,
Title III,
yeah.
sorry,
which is SRS.
SRS.
Okay.
Sorry for the acronym.
Hoping that gets funded again, so.
Well, I have some ideas. Once we get past this part, I can talk to you really quick about.
Okay.
I think Doug's aware of one of them.
okay, and this is an action item, and you guys do have the contract, the GIS portal part of it?
So for the budget for 24, though, one is 66, And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
it's just a planning tool for the 48 moving forward.
Yes.
So is everybody's good with the GIS contract for 12,000? I need a motion to approve that.
Do you want a total motion for the 66 to approve the whole thing?
It's up to you.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the 2024 mobile risk assessment allocation of 66,000 to include a $12,000 contract for GIS updates.
Second.
Who did second it? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, all of that would be expended out of Title III.
Right.
Okay, so here's an idea we have. You had a meeting at 10:15 today that got canceled, and it was discussed the Forest Service granting funding mechanism. I will tell you, I read it very thoroughly, along with Stephanie, who's read it very thoroughly. Stephanie's actually discussed this a little bit with the clerk, Mr. Miller. There is an opportunity to get a grant that could cover the costs and no longer need to cover costs out of SRS funding if we utilize that grant. And we'd have to just apply. Now, I know the grant's coming up, and I know you've delayed it for a couple of weeks, but if we can get your grant writer to start on that and read through that and get that going for the county. And then if they need any additional help, I'm sure that Stephanie and I could help them with any actual provisions that need to go in the grant narrative. We can help them with that as well as we move forward. But it is an opportunity to take it off of SRS at this point and utilize that grant money as much as possible, specifically to the mobile risk data.
I was gonna say, is the grant then just for the 12,000, or do you think?
No, we
that it
can
could
use the
go beyond
grant,
that?
we can use it to compound that and then use it to pay for additional years until that grant sunsets, and use it to pay for those additional years of that 48,000 as well, and help us not have to utilize the SRS funding at this time. Because again, SRS funding, we're always told every year is thankful you have it this time, you may not get it next time. So that could happen anytime as we're renewing in those sunsets. So it's just an opportunity. I wanted to bring that up, even though the meeting wasn't there. We have, like I said, we have talked to the clerk about it a little bit, and I'm here just to say if we could get your grant writer on it, and again, utilize your wildland prevention person and your EM to help with those grant narrative issues that she may come up with, and then we could possibly get that grant in and maybe get some money allocated to the mobile risk assessment in itself.
Well, is
Sending
Mackenzie
it
aware
to
of all
her.
this?
She is.
How long do we have to get the grant filled out?
I can't remember, but it's coming up within the next, I think, 60 to 90 days.
We gotta get on that one pretty quick.
So Doug, she has all this then?
She's
Or
aware of
get an
it, and I
email?
provided it to her yet.
So I can move on to the EM portions if you're ready for that.
Yeah,
Okay, so the EM portion is, they still haven't released the SHSP funding for 2024. So they're not going to actually, the state's not even going to get it till the middle of next week. So, and then probably right after that, we'll get the documents that need signed that just shows the allocation of the funding because some of it starts October 1st. So what I was told by our current AFR, Airfield Officer for IOEM, and the granting was just to utilize the funding mechanism that we had last year, and if it changes, then we can adjust on our side. So roughly, it was I get 31.4
$39.74.
is what we budgeted last year, and then I'm asking for a 3% increase in cost on top of that.
so if we put it at, what did you say, 31 what? So around 32.3? What was the original number, 31 what?
31,494.
What'd you get, Doug?
Hang on 1 second.
I just said you're gonna do it for free. You didn't hear that part.
Well, I got half of it paid for.
$32,382.93 is the current request.
32,300.
382.
Oh, I got-
93.
I got 482, 382, okay. 32,382. Gosh,
You ever got half of it?
Yeah, so the EMPG funding goes to our emergency management grant allocation through FEMA, through the state, and they pay 50% of that cost. That's all based on populace of what we have in Valley County is how they determine that funding dollars amount.
Doug, do we need a motion for that?
It's just a budget request, Mr. Chairman. And that budget line is in 0111, the general fund civil defense.
And then did you bring a copy of Kara's contract? paper?
No, the prosecuting attorney had it, and he was supposed to send it to you guys.
They have it. I'll print
We
it
have it?
off,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we're good, aren't we?
That's all I had for you today.
Okay.
I told you I'd keep it fast. Again, I asked for money. I guess that's my thing. I always ask for money when I come to you guys, sorry.
Bring us a hat or something, man.
Get you some swag. I'll try to get you my OEM hats or something.
So we need to, is this an action item?
No, it's in
The
the,
only thing was the action item was the GIS contract,
and we voted on that.
Yep.
I think we're good. I think we're covered, ready
Right.
to go.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lon.
Okay, so we're gonna move on down to our agenda. Our next one is also an action item. This is a request for a proposal for janitorial services. Oh, we have we have to have
We have
something open.
two that have received, and I don't know if Facilities Director Scott Klingon received any, but those are the only two that the clerk's office received, Mr. Chairman.
And we have one for the McCall Annex and one for the courthouse. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes.
Thanks, Chief.
That's not in our,
So I'm gonna open the annex one first.
So anytime we're doing bids, they bring the bids in a sealed envelope, and we have to open them here.
that's what this is. Okay. You too cold here, you doing okay?
I'm all right, but it's on the chilly.
I can-
I'm okay.
I can shut that up.
So which one is this?
This
Courthouse
is-
or the?
What it
Annex.
says on the letter that it is for the annex. Bonded LLC,
Oh, that's the annex.
and they've got liability, they've got the bond, it looks like. I just gotta get to the end of the house, you know?
Janitorial, they just come in and clean the carpets, do the trash, stuff like that. 5 days a week.
And Scott, this was, this request for proposal was published in the newspaper.
Okay, beginning October 1, 2023, ending September 2024. The contract will provide services at the rate of $1,575 per month, 1575 per month, or $18,900 annually. $18,900 annually. This is from Bonded LLC. Ready to get that? That's the only one we had on the annex, is that correct?
No, they're supposed to be turned in to the clerk's office is where,
And that's all that we received, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so if you're good with that, I'd entertain a motion.
And the other proposal for certain is not the annex?
Well, I probably should open it. It says courthouse.
I'm wondering
They're
if maybe
supposed to be
they bid
labeled.
on both.
well, they're supposed to be labeled separately.
Oh, okay. All right then.
I'm not gonna mix
So
that up.
the courthouse and annex are two separate bids?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, this is Valley County Courthouse, Sheriff's Office, and the EOC.
So whoever's doing it now chose not to bid on it, huh?
I guess
Kinda
not.
Interesting, okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the bid from Bonded LLC for the McCall Annex at $1,575 a month.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye, motion carries.
This for the annex?
Yep.
Mhm.
I gotta turn around and talk at you directly.
Okay, Doug, you gotta test that one. There's that envelope.
I need to sit here also.
Now we're gonna move to the courthouse.
Tell you what, when he's gone, we're gonna put the chairman in the middle. Or get rid of this stupid desk.
Get rid of the desk.
Okay, this is called Essential Facility Services. kbsservices.com. It's janitorial services for the courthouse, the sheriff's office, and the EOC. Kellermeyer Bergeson Services LLC. And this comes in at $7,750 per month, or $93,000 annually.
Doug, what we have budgeted on them? Need to adjust that. Feels like it's the same, but
I think it was 86.
Yeah, we will have to, bear with me one moment.
And I don't have a page to approve or sign.
We don't,
so
what
Scott,
did we have last year?
did we include like the park and rec office or the prosecuting attorney's office on anything or the road department?
I'd have to look at I thought we did this year.
I wonder if
I'd have
that's
to,
why
I'll have
it's
to go
more.
back and look at what we budgeted. I think we budgeted around, 125,000 or something to try to cover, cause we're
Yeah,
covered.
last year we budgeted 114,500
Mhm.
for this fiscal year,
It
commissioners.
doesn't
So
say,
when we put it out though for bid, we didn't include those other
no,
areas,
No,
just the,
mm-mm.
okay.
Valley County Courthouse, Valley County Sheriff's Office, and the Emergency Operations Center.
So if we ask them to do more, we'll expect a little
Well, I
higher.
have another contractor that takes care of those things.
Oh, you
Local. Mhm.
Okay. Do you have to bid that one out too, or?
No, cause they're kind of just as, they're once a month basically is what they are.
Oh, I see.
Up the U of I, the Parks and Recs building down there. They also do the fairground bathrooms, after when someone has a special event there or anything.
How much are we paying them per year, Scott? Is it over the 50?
No.
Okay.
Ain't close.
You wanna make a motion or you want me to?
On which one? Both of them, combine them both, or?
No, we already voted on the first one. This is for the KBS services.
This is just courthouse.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you
Mr.
need
Chairman,
the
I move that
approval
we
sheet?
accept the bid for KBS services for janitorial services in the courthouse, sheriff's office, and the EOC at $7,750 a month,
93,000 a year.
$93,000 annually.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
So we only got one bid for each?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Got another local company that was interested in doing the courthouse and stuff here, but I guess they decided they didn't want to do it.
So Doug, they didn't give me a
And I
signature
also had an
page to
inquiry
sign,
from
so
a
I just signed
company
it there.
out of Canada.
You can attest, I guess.
They,
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Didn't
that's
submit one
fine.
either.
Tries
Did you tell them it's not remote work?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump down here.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
anything else?
that'd be it.
All
I
right.
gotta go meet contractors at the recycle center to do a walkthrough.
Woohoo.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna move on to our last agenda item of the day. This is not an action item. This is the budget workshop for Valley County. Doug, I will turn this over to you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. I think I'd like to request that Veteran Services Officer Jamie Coffey Kelly make a presentation to the commissioners on her budget request for fiscal year 2024.
It's too late. You can't do it.
It's not too late, Mr. Chairman.
Is this an action item?
Oh,
It's
Not an
not on
action,
here?
item, it's just a
Sorry,
budget
Doug.
request
Yep. Jamie, welcome. What do you got?
Thank
for our
you.
budget workshop.
Doug, I did have a really quick question for you. I emailed you back, but I figured you didn't get it. You had said a recent proposal, but I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
Recent proposal that you've submitted in your email seems to be
The one that I just sent.
correct.
Got it. Okay. I was like, oh,
Did
okay.
you include the scanner?
What's that?
The scanner.
The scanner? I
That's
did.
already-
It's already done. Good.
Alrighty, yep.
Doug, where's the information that we're looking at?
You're
I have
not
it
looking
here.
at anything right now.
All right,
Mr.
I got
Chairman,
it.
you will be provided with.
For future, we don't look at anything that we don't get by Thursday
know.
prior.
Sorry, I thought this was Thursday and I found it just a little bit ago. It was today, so it was fast and furious.
Yeah, you're way off if you think today's Thursday.
Oh, no, I thought this was Thursday, so I apologize for that. So the budget isn't really gonna change, for this year. But I do wanna discuss a few things kind of coming up that I'm wanting to work on for possibly next year, just as getting ready to get into it. So the budget last year was $1,000 plus the Vetrospect, which is the software, that we use for the Valley County Veteran Service Officer to get into the claim services for the VA, which is, I had it here, $499 annually. The budget might go down this year just because the Legion has agreed to pay for the training this year that you guys paid for last year. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So that'll probably end up not quite getting there, but between the scanner, the business cards, I do use my own computer, but because it's a web-based program, Vetrospect, I don't have to save anything on my computer. It's all saved and uploaded into the cloud. So as far as that goes, you know, that's pretty much stays the same. But my proposal, the reason I had kind of asked to do this is two things. I am proposing that I get one of the county offices here. They've got 2 rooms downstairs that we discussed. And originally I was going to ask you guys $400 or $500 a month to get an office in Donnelly. And I'll explain why I decided to hold back a little bit this year and maybe look at that for next year, is to create a Valley County Veterans Outreach Office. Idaho County, I don't know if you ever get a chance, look at the Idaho County's Veteran Outreach Office. A couple of the other counties in the areas, which I can get you guys the information for, have outreach offices. Currently right now I meet at the Legion Hall, but unfortunately they're getting so busy over there that people are walking in the middle of our very private meetings. We're talking about people's medical health and you know, things that they have that are very private to them. And people are just walking in and out of the Legion, even when I put up signs, because it is, you know, they're getting ready for Friday night dinners or they're getting ready for whatever things that they have. And so I don't really have a private place there that I can meet with people, as well as the stuff that we use. I carry it everywhere, everywhere that I go. And so having just an office space would be beneficial to not only meet with people privately, and there's also a little bit of security in the fact that I go into a lot of people's homes, and I go in there by myself. So some of them, I don't mind going in. They're great folks, but some of them, when you get there, you're like, oh, wow, okay, here I go. So just would give me a place where people could meet. The reason I wanted to look at Donnelly is it is centrally located. And the fact that the county offices here, they would have to come through the main door where you go through the office or you go through all of that. And a lot of our veterans, and I won't specify which ones, they don't like to come to the county. They don't like to come to the government buildings, right? And so that might get a couple of the folks that I work with not wanting to come see me, not wanting to come in. The Legion Hall. There is a little bit of a stigma with the Legion. I personally love the Legion, but the Legion does not serve people that are not honorably discharged. Where as a Valley County Veteran Service Officer, I will work with anyone, because sometimes people come to me wanting to change that status from other than honorable to honorable, or even if they were a dishonorable, there are some things that are still out there available to them through other organizations. But they won't go into the Legion because they're like, no, Legion won't help me. And so having that separate location where it's just the Valley County Veterans Outreach Office, I think would be very beneficial and has been utilized in a lot of other counties. So,
Amy, do you know, are they getting any kind of VA benefit to do that? I
what do you mean, through the VA? No. Are you talking about through the Idaho Division of Veteran Services?
Anything that would be in support of the veterans. I mean, I totally support veterans. That's not a problem. But when you take taxpayer dollars and ask them to support something, I mean, they're looking for,
well, what other funding mechanisms are out there?
Right.
I have no problem sharing an office space here with you. I understand the thought process behind Donley being centrally located, but today is budget day. It's always a
Yeah.
difficult day to ask for additional money because
Yeah.
there is none.
Right,
Have
yeah.
you looked at, have you researched any of the spaces in Donnelly?
I have. Mountain Munitions, the gentleman that recently opened that Mountain Munitions,
Mhm.
he is a veteran. And he now owns that building. He has some folks that are renting behind him that do they take care of long-term rentals, the cleaning the place. And then he's got a single office that enters into the side of the building as well. That's just about a perfect size, and he's asking $500 a month. I did look at some of the other locations. They have that commercial rental building in there, and they run between about 3 for the smaller offices and about 8 or more for some of the bigger offices. So the one with Mountain Munitions would be $500 a month, and that would include the internet, the restrooms, basically everything would be included, the power. So that is something that I'm kind of looking towards. Kind of decided I'm not ready to move forward on that this year, just because it is budget season right in the middle, and I don't have all the answers for you. So but just know that that is something that I'm kind of looking at and trying to figure out how we can make something like that work. But in the meantime, I do want to ask, as well as my budget, if I can have one of the offices down here to meet with folks that, I feel like it might be better to meet with them here than other locations.
I think it would be great to try it out of the courthouse, see how it goes. If there is a lot of resistance about folks not wanting to come into a government building, then we will have to consider something different next year, but let's try it here.
Okay.
This
That was
late in
kinda
the
where
budget,
I was-
think this is as far as we can go.
Juan's got a lot of space in the fire department.
I thought about that. That was part of my, I'm not quite ready to throw it out to you guys, is because I thought there might be some other locations that we could look at, and I might be putting the cart before the horse, so
We'll have to get with IT and get you a badge.
we talked about
And
that.
Doug
So.
will help you with all that stuff. Going back on your budget here, are you actually asking for the 1248, or are you still asking for the 1,000? If you add all those numbers up, it comes to 1248.
So because if I remember correctly, Doug, the Tyler Technologies is in a different budget. It's under the,
It's budgeted currently in
Under
the
IT.
IT budget.
right, so that $499,
Oh, okay, so that's not on there?
that's not on there, yeah.
And the annual training now is being paid by somebody else.
So far, the Legion has said they will. I want to leave it in there just in case for some reason they're unable to, or they forget that they told me that, but.
So basically $1,000, and there's some fluff in there for you to do other things.
Works for me.
Works for me.
And probably the cheapest department at this point.
But do we have that office downstairs that's available?
We have 2 or 3
3
downstairs.
of them, I think.
Do we?
Okay,
Okay, that's it.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thanks for all you do for our
Now
veterans.
it's Gabby's turn.
Hey, commissioners, if you recall, I don't know where we want to go, commissioners, because we do still have a lot to talk about. So I don't know if you want to hear from HR director regarding the salary request that you guys had for him at the last budget workshop, or if you want to go through the remaining funds that you guys didn't get an opportunity to see and comment on.
Let's start there. Let's finish what we started.
Funds, okay?
What do you think?
Works for me.
Can you
We were at,
scroll to after snowmobile?
yeah, all the other stuff.
Been down there quite a ways. Solid waste. Pest control. Smith's Ferry snowmobile. On redemption fund.
All right, Commissioners, this is your Title III fund, so we do have a specific fund for this now. The proposed budget is going to be $386,375.93. What we're trying to project when we're doing this is any additional dollars that are gonna come out for this fiscal year, and then what we're gonna receive in revenue for fiscal year 2024. So what we're proposing at this point in time is that the proposed budget for Title III funds is $386,375.93.
So the year before, we're at 442 is the budget amount. As of August, we've only used 180.
Correct. You've expended $180,000 this year in Title III expenditures.
So Doug, if we budget for this and we don't use it, does it just go carry over and stay in
It does.
Title III?
Correct. It will stay in the remaining cash, right? Right now in remaining cash, you have $258,258, but we do anticipate a few expenses coming out. Then we had to project what we were going to receive in revenue for fiscal year 2024, and then that is your starting budget amount.
So the 386, 375, Doug, that you projected, that's all we're gonna get this year? It's gone down from last year?
Correct.
It's
And
just
your-
carry over what's
It went down
left.
from the year before too.
We had a pool of funds, remember, that had been accumulating for a number of years. It's very specific now. We have to identify where all of these funds are gonna go.
And-
So we actually have to budget this now a little bit more closely. So, and we have spent down that pool of funds. But this is just the carryover plus whatever we're gonna get in.
So.
Correct.
Why didn't we break it out like the Percy manager expenses and Stephanie's expenses? You just have Title III. Do we have to break it out?
You do have to, when we do our budget presentation, you have to say that fire mitigation, this funding is gonna be used for fire mitigation, for emergency services manager, software. So when we do our public hearing, we do have to identify what we know we're gonna be utilizing that funding for. We haven't had any requests, like from the fire departments for search and rescue type equipment. Like we made a contribution to Cascade last year. But so I am unaware of any other expenditures that are gonna be coming out of this besides our normal hazardous fuel education that we're using. And then
The proposal that we just got. for
proposal
this
that we just
48.
received, yes, ma'am.
So who actually does this budget? Is there anybody that actually, like Waterways actually does
It's-
their budget with proposals? We don't really have anybody that's overseeing these funds.
I mean, it's Stephanie Nelson, your fire mitigation employee utilizes this funding, and then your emergency services manager utilizes funding.
Okay. And the new funds for the 495,000 or whatever it is not
GNA
in
funds?
this line item, the Good Neighbor.
We've budgeted for that in 0118, and we can go
Okay,
back to
perfect.
that and show you
Help
where those
us.
funds have been.
That's fine. I
budgeted
remember
for.
something there. I just want to
You're
make
talking
sure.
about the GNA,
Yep.
Neighbor Authority funds, right?
And Title III comes from the feds.
Secure Rural Schools, it's a percentage, I think it's an 8% percentage of the entire SRS dollars that we get. The commissioners allocate that to Title III.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Title III is only money you can use on federal forest land.
And for hazardous fuel reduction and
Right, right.
education.
Wow.
In education.
Search and rescue, I mean, that's how we funded a lot of the new packs that the sheriff's office
equipment,
got that are
yeah.
being used on search and rescue operations.
Hey, where are we going next?
Sheriff Capital Equipment Fund, so this is the money that this is the fund that has been created with the contribution, the fourth quarter payment from the Cascade Policing. Currently, there is $280,000 in that fund to be used for future equipment for policing, specifically for the Cascade area. What we're projecting for next year is that fund will be $330,400 $1,287.55. I have talked with the new sheriff and reminded him that this fund is available for future equipment and encouraged him to, for replacement vehicles, for any other type of equipment, specifically for the Cascade area, would come out of this fund.
Has that contract been signed yet?
My understanding, it has not been signed yet, but it isn't being negotiated.
So Doug, the
And there is a, optimistic that it will be, thank you, optimistic that it will be approved. But no, it has not been executed as of yet.
amount that these are jumping up is pretty substantial.
It's because it hasn't been utilized, Commissioner Thompson.
So it's just secure.
Carryover.
Correct.
Oh. Ah, okay, got it.
We've taken the fourth quarter payment from the city of Cascade and created this fund. So they have a fund to utilize in the future for future capital needs.
Sure.
So Doug, what would happen if that contract does not get signed? Then these funds are still ours, we don't have to return
The
them.
281,000, my understanding is the 280,000 that we currently have would be ours. But commissioners, we need to know sooner than later because we're gonna have to reduce the sheriff's office budget by approximately 195,000. They would not be able to fund 3 patrol positions
If we lost there.
if we lose the contract with the city of Cascade. So we are coming down to the crunch time but my understanding, it's optimistic and potentially going to be approved. But I have not seen a signed contract as of yet, no.
So this may be a conversation for next week before we publish then, because, you know, if we don't have
Well,
it
it's
by
always,
next.
it's better to publish high, and then your formal approval won't be, you can't, it would be wise for the commissioners to budget for, as it's going to be moving forward. Because if we budget with it out going forward, we can't go higher than our published budget.
So if need be, we would publish,
We
but
would-
then we could amend at the end of the month, during our budget hearing.
During the formal approval on the 11th, you could amend what the actual budget and the amount that's gonna be levied at that time. Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to push for this. I'm hearing all kinds of things in the community, and if we don't have resolution by the time that we set our budget, I think we have to make some adjustments.
We have to.
Yeah,
Th-
they
we-
gotta
we
get
don't-
this done.
I have made this clear with the sheriff, with the prosecuting attorney's office, that if we don't have a contract with the city of Cascade, we are going to be reducing the sheriff's office budget
Okay,
by approximately 195,000,
okay, thank you.
which would be 3 positions.
And Doug, what happens to if it happens, what happens to the remaining money in this budget?
In this fund, I would have to have the legal counsel review the contract, but I believe that still would be the county's dollars, but I can't speculate. I don't know.
Damn wheels.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get to that far.
Yep.
Because it's gonna cost a lot more than this to set it back up.
Yeah, we don't wanna lose 3 officers. Where are we losing?
There's 3 positions that haven't been filled. And that I would be recommending to the commissioners to reduce that from their budget.
Okay, where are we going next?
The next fund is the Extension Agent Fund. This fund, you can see, is utilized for 4-H awards and buckles, 4-H enrollment, fair, panels, agriculture. We specifically broke this fund out, so they have specific expense lines. This is a fund that they utilize that aren't general tax dollars.
So what's the totals down there, Joey? There you go.
They're the same. Oh, crack is open.
So this is the same budget
Thing I
as last
got
year?
It is. After speaking with University of Idaho Extension educator, she proposed that we do another year of the same amount.
And I like the fact it's broken out. I think that makes.
Yeah,
more
they
sense.
were not aware. I thought they were aware, but they weren't utilizing it correctly this fiscal year. But we've had some training with them again, and it'll be utilized the way that it's supposed to next fiscal year. The interlock device fund, this can be used for the interlock device for individuals that are unable to pay for the interlock device. If they are convicted of a DUI, the new law says is you have to have an interlock device on your vehicle for 1 year. We do have an interlock device fund that can be utilized if there are individuals that are unable to afford that. That decision is made by the judge. This fund can also be used for evaluations if an individual is unable to pay for an evaluation. This fund is revenue that's generated from court costs. There's a specific court cost and fine that it's assessed on the judgment, and in our system, it breaks it out of where the payment should go to. The interlock device fund is one of those funds that's funded by fines and costs. Currently, there is $33,654 in that account. We project that it's going to collect another $2,000 based on our analysis. So we are proposing the start of that fund should be $35,654.
Have we ever spent that much?
We spend a few thousand a year, but this year we've only spent $386.
So it's just kind of a curing thing in
Yeah.
our court.
This is the OHV fund that again is a fund that's utilized by the sheriff's office that's collected, the revenues collected from dollars that are received directly from the state. As you can see this year, it was utilized more frequently, and we currently have $30,729.85 in remaining cash. We anticipate another $14,000 in revenue, so our proposed projected budget for fiscal year 2024 is $44,729.50.
So this is from tag receipts?
Correct.
But can we only use this for sheriff's
It's-
OHV, or can we use it for Parks and Rec? Like if Parks and Rec wanted to.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that it's only for law enforcement
For law
use, but we would need to get clarification.
Okay.
And I apologize for standing, I just need to stand. Okay, the PILT fund, we're proposing a budget of $2,641,502. We have a remaining cash right now of $2,141,502. We did have to increase the amount in the general fund budget that we utilize with PILT dollars to $300,000. And then in this fund would be $600,000 would be projected to go in there. So next fiscal year, the budget for the PILT fund would be $2,641,502.
So let's go back a minute here.
Yes, sir.
That we were concerned about the EMS funding.
The commissioners wanted to have a reserve amount of $1.5 million in there.
We promised some of that, right?
We have some of it committed. Or we're making payments for the master facilities plan out of that. And we do have some software that's being purchased out of that.
Did we take money out of it for the fairgrounds improvements too? Did that come
No,
out of pillar?
That was coming out of ARPA.
That's out of ARPA,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's when I told you guys some expenses that had come out of ARPA. We'll talk about that, but I'm, right now, for what hasn't been committed of ARPA dollars specifically is approximately $700,000.
Do we know what we're gonna get on, from PILT?
It's usually about 900,000 that's received.
And of that, we're backfilling the budget to provide salary increases this year by 300,000.
300,000. Potentially more in the future, but that's for this year to balance the budget.
PILT is
Payment in lieu of taxes.
taxes.
Yep.
Which is too low. Did I say that?
By a third. Just had
No,
that
it is. It
conversation
really
with
is
Fulcher
low.
too.
Yeah.
On four class timber, the private timber ground is about 65 cents an acre. This, if if you look at this and you split it out by their acres, they're paying about 21 or 22 cents.
That's ridiculous. I don't know why they,
If we were getting the same as what private timber was paying, we'd be looking shut.
The NASI fund, that was a contribution that was made by the NASI sister commissioners. You currently have $46,689.06.
Didn't somebody ask for some of that, Doug?
They didn't make a formal request, but there was gonna be a request from the Long Valley Preservation Society for these funds. We haven't seen anything official just yet. We are aware that they were potentially wanting these funds to
This
utilize.
could only be spent on
Parks.
parks. That was it.
That's correct.
Not spent on anything else.
just parks.
And once this money is gone, commissioners, the money's gone.
Parks, just state parks or county
Parks.
parks?
More preservation stuff,
Oh, I follow you.
like Long
like-
Valley preservation stuff,
They've been
Roseberry
doing
stuff.
stuff at Roseberry.
Yep. I follow you. Okay.
We can't use it for like our county parks,
You could.
could we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the Nasty sisters, when they made the contribution, just wanted to go to parks. Remember, Mr. Chairman, is
That's
that
right.
we bought Wellington Park
Yeah,
with this
that's
money.
right, with this money. That was $9,000, I think, for Wellington.
I'd been- yeah.
Larry, know that?
You can buy some bears.
Bears.
Like they
We
didn't,
need camels.
like they didn't call.
Quick one, squirrel, let's get through this.
Okay.
Court Facilities Fund, Commissioners, this is also a fund that part of the court costs and fines, you can put into a court facilities fund. Several years ago, that this fund was utilized to replace the roof at the courthouse and the jail. Currently, we have $82,694.37. We anticipate a little bit of revenue from the courts for next year. So our proposed budget for this fund is $85,094. This can only be used on courthouse improvements, capital improvements, so it's a specific fund for that.
I think you could probably buy his Neil a new desk here.
So what about
As you can see,
the
we didn't spend any money on
Bluetooth
it the last few years.
thermostats?
I'm for that, man.
This could be used for that if needed. Yep. It's, again, this revenue is only about $2,000 a year. Once this money's gone, it's gone, so commissioners have,
We spent a lot on the roofs.
yep,
I think it was a couple $100,000, wasn't it?
it was 160,000, I think.
New desk would be sweet.
Yes.
911 Mountaintop Fund, this is to assist with replacement of the mountaintops. Currently, there is $34,000, but after the payments that we receive, we are anticipating $38,250 for fiscal year 2024. And I believe Chief Bonilla is kind of in charge of when these will get replaced, and we just need to continue to budget for
We
it.
got a
Towers, our communication towers.
Oh, what we were talking about earlier.
but we used to pay for them, and then one got us a deal through the state.
That's the SHP funding.
Yeah.
It's about $34,000 a year. Use that to replace the control repeater.
We have 2 left to replace,
There's 3.
3 left to replace, so we're up to date, but as one stated earlier, they're not digital, they're still analog. So if we ever convert radios, we're gonna have to convert these mountaintops too, but
Do you have a cost, what digital cost to replace it? None?
It changes so much every 3 to 6 months that it's hard to
Get
get
it?
it for 2 years out.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Jury fund, this is a fund that we have created where jurors can donate their mileage dollars. And then we can utilize this fund if an individual is unable to find daycare or transportation for their jury service. We can utilize this fund to cover those costs. We also can use it to purchase snacks. I think we could also potentially use it for purchase of chairs if needed. But this has all been made by contributions from previous jurors who wanted to donate to that fund. Currently, we have $1,660.11 in that fund. That's what we're proposing to budget for fiscal year 2024. And we do make jurors aware that this is available if they're needing it to pay for daycare, travel.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, this is the American Rescue, this is ARPA dollars, and we've broken it out a little bit differently. So I'm reflecting what you currently have, which is $2,164,010 of ARPA dollars that have not been expended yet. We also have a separate line for interest earned. So as you guys are aware, the treasurer has been investing that money. So we have a specific expense line for those interest dollars when the commissioners choose to utilize those. But what you have in the ARPA dollars right now is $2,164,010. But if the commissioners are aware, you've made a commitment for $1 million to the Housing Trust, $250,000 for the fairgrounds, $350,000 to the Valley County Pickleball Club, and you were also going to utilize this money potentially for the grant matches that the Recreation Department is applying for.
Look, I thought
Doug.
we only gave 300,000 to the pickle.
300,000, my apologies, 150, yeah.
So do we have the rest of it under the LCHTP or
Yes.
whatever?
So then you'll
there's
see
a-
another fund.
So you're just keeping them separate?
I'm
so that
keeping
we
them
can
separate, yes.
Record it accordingly, okay.
So the 450,000 is there also, it's just on the interest part.
That's the interest. That's the interest that have been earned. In discussions with the treasurer, we feel that there will be 450,000 in interest earned next fiscal year. And we want to make sure that you have a specific expense line to be able to spend those interest earned dollars.
Okay.
And this is the LATCF fund. We did receive our second tranche, so currently we have $6,550,930.76 in this fund. And commissioners, you're aware that we do have a master facilities plan presentation by Clearwater Financial on the 14th of August, and potentially a portion of these funds could be utilized for some of those recommendations that will be coming out of the Clearwater Financial presentation, as well as the Citizens Committee recommendations.
Can you? I always forget that one. I hate acronyms.
It's the local tribe, bear with me and I can give you the exact acronym.
It's ARPA funds, they just sent it a different way.
They're sending
I mean,
it a
it's still
different way.
federal funding, it came down through the SRS formula, PILT formula, actually. So
It comes
they
through
just
the
called it a
tribes.
different fund. Well, the tribes get a portion of it. It was every SRS county in the country plus the tribes received this tranche of money.
Okay.
So it's still the federal.
So it's
ARPA.
Local Assistant and Tribal Consistency Fund is the exact title.
Okay. That's quite a bit.
And as Commissioner Mopin, it is the American Rescue Plan appropriation, but it's two separate funding, so I wanted to make sure that we had it broke out. It's a lot easier for reporting.
There's separate requirements on both.
And there's
of
separate
those.
requirements, right? One has really strict general government purpose guidelines of how the money can be expended, and then these monies are a little bit more broader of how they can be expended.
Okay, so
And then the reporting timelines, allocation timelines are different. You have to have the ARPA dollars identified, how they're going to be expended by the end of fiscal year 2024. These ones you don't have to have, you don't have to present how they're going to be funded or utilized or when they're going to be utilized.
they don't have a timeline.
You don't have a
they just-
timeline on these.
You just,
So Doug, when will we know from the master facilities plan? Is that gonna be before budget?
Yeah, it's going to be next week.
So next week, we can hopefully answer the fire guys' questions on, are we gonna fund another whatever, 1,011,000. I think that's why they're sitting here. And you look at this and you look at some of the ideas that Garrett had about maybe we should buy the ambulance and have to cut down that demand to 830,000. I really think we could probably do this, but there's so many unknowns. I think we're afraid to take that step.
Well,
I think we have to do it. I mean, I think we have to make hard decisions.
interest
and
off the ARPA
The
money,
interest alone would do.
buy an ambulance.
There's some ideas about the interest off the ARPA money that's gonna be
I mean,
discussed
there's-
also, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if we could do a portion of this from ARPA or the LAC funds and go ahead and buy the ambulance, get it done. And then the sustainable part of it, the salaries are what they're asking for. We're gonna have to do that uphill until we can get the new stuff paid. So I think you just have to make hard decisions, and unfortunately, I will do it with vinegar in my mouth, but I will do it. I hate this. I mean, I said last year, we're gonna have to figure out some other stuff, and we haven't figured out any other stuff. There's been no change, so I'm a little
Well,
frustrated,
I
but
think we have. We've got an election coming and hopefully that's gonna get approved and override and we're gonna be back to square one and everybody's gonna be in Reno. But we've gotta get them through this next year and I think we have.
pixie dust is in the wind. Pixie dust is in the wind.
Pixie dust is in the wind.
We better hope so.
I think it's a matter of
Not
priorities,
sustainable.
I guess.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, I'm sitting here in the back of my mind going, okay, we're increasing salaries so we can keep help on our end of $900,000. We could take away all the salaries and give it to them out of the general budget. But then we don't hire employees on our end.
Right.
So it's a really difficult decision. And
Yeah,
where we're
you
at.
could- You could, yep.
Okay. moving on.
Okay.
I believe that is the last fund.
We don't have to do, solid waste.
We already did that one.
We already did,
We're
you
done
could
with
look
that?
at it again. This
we
is a
went by
budget
that.
workshop, Commissioner, so if there's any areas that you feel need to be addressed again, please let me know. Or I will turn it over to Mike and have him present on the request that you had requested him to look at the last budget workshop.
Come on up, Mike.
There's a hot seat right there next to Gabby.
Oh, no, this isn't hot stuff here. So real briefly, you had asked me to take a look at a few positions within the budget recommendations for salary increases. Start with the simple ones first. Actually, they're all pretty simple, quite honestly. The two folks that we have working for us at the solid waste facility out in Donnelly, you had asked me to take a look at that. I've done so, looking at what they're doing relative to other positions within the county. I am making a recommendation that we bump both of them up one of our pay grades uphill. That would take them from what we were recommending in the either around $19 an hour for each. I am now recommending that that increase would pop them about another $1 an hour above what we were recommending. This would put both of those folks just above $20 an hour.
And I think we need to do that.
Yep, I do too.
Absolutely.
I have a question on that. So we don't really have like, Pat did away with having tiers per se. So I guess when
Right.
you say you recommend upping it, that doesn't really correlate to how she had it set up.
Do you mean specifically in that division, in that department? Or within the frontline staff, we don't have tiers in those frontline positions? Aren't there like certified planner 1, 2, and 3 or something like that, or?
We have that in some of them. I guess I just meant, she did away with any structure of like, this is kind of those tier of. We used to have it where it was like, these positions were all a 14 and these are all a 15 and the ranges were exactly the same, and so when, the way you said it
Yeah,
would
there
make
is. Yeah,
sense,
I would
jumping
agree.
into
There are
tier.
a lot of different.
She did
ranges
that
out
away
there.
with that completely, and just every job stands alone, so I don't really know where jumping it up a tier would put us.
But
You know what I
Mike,
mean, there isn't,
What I'm hearing Gabby say is this: we've had a lot of like building department just has a building inspection tech 1, 2, or 3. And there's different job descriptions for each one of those and
Correct.
different salary ranges for each one of those. Sounds like we need to create whatever they're called, permit, you know, or a
Mhm.
technician two.
That would certainly be one way to do it. Or you can just say, hey, the range needs to be moved up $1 above what it was proposed to go. Or so, you know, or what, a specific dollar amount.
So Gabby, in doing that, the only concern I have is if those ladies turn over, now you're bringing somebody in fresh without the ability to do a number one position versus somebody with experience. What the two ladies out there are now should be a two. They should be bumping up in their career cycle. But if we have to replicate that and bring somebody on, it needs to come on again at the starting wage that may be lower.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
That makes sense to you guys?
Yeah, you've got some, see like down at the bottom, the jail tax for 16, there's an office support 17. And we felt like that's too low for somebody to live on up here.
But we're not adjusting all of those, because if you
No.
do that, El, then
No,
everything
no,
has to
we're not,
move.
but-
Not this year, anyway. I'm
I
not
don't
seeing
think
them
they're
right
in there,
off.
Gabby.
Yeah, I don't see
There's no
that.
department that says solid waste,
No,
unless it's-
no.
No
or
solid
transfer
waste out
station, so I
there.
don't know where else she would have had it.
They were there when we looked last time. No, it's under Fund 23.
But this is just all.
193.
Yeah, I
of
found
the-
them in,
This is,
under the annual raise tab.
right, but that's the individual people, which we can't talk about.
Gotcha.
We have to be talking, this is what the range is gonna do, and then that would fluctuate the people throughout.
Right.
So the document I'm looking at is 2023 final IEC salary something or other. Proposed wage increases, 2024 proposed wage increases. And it's got them separated by fund, solid waste fund. And then the two ladies are separated.
Right, but I'm saying on the ranges, which is what you're talking about, the ranges, not the people.
Yeah, what would they wouldn't be office support specialists?
She has them all, Pat created this, and they're, all the departments are over here. And then the job title's in the second column, so there isn't, so I'm guessing she missed it. I'm gonna look at last year's and see if it was there.
Solid waste gatekeeper.
Maybe you can work with Mike on that and try and figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find something.
See where the range is.
Huh.
I think
There's,
fac-
whoa,
Gary,
look,
if
gotta
you go
it
back
a
down,
little- down a little more.
The in
it's
facilities.
under facilities, yeah.
Right there.
There it is.
Oh, because, I mean, it's not, okay, so you would need to. Identify solid waste, if the way you were talking, Commissioner Mountain, is have solid gatekeeper 1 and then have solid gatekeeper 2. And then you determine after however many years, someone could be there 2 or 3 years, should the starting rate
Right.
be 1804 or 1904, you know. If you give it a range for those, then we can figure out where those gals would therefore be within that range. For the wage.
We have two different documents. Mine's easier to read than yours. I don't know how I cut. And this breaks down each one of the funds. I don't know.
You're
It's a
looking at,
spreadsheet.
you're looking at this.
Our starting
Yes, but
wage.
this is the employees specifically.
Right.
But in order for us to do what you're talking about, we
Range.
need to look back
Got
at
it.
the actual position, not at the two
Got it.
employees. Because if you just look at them and say, okay, they should be 19, we've left the range completely out of it.
Got it.
And what we were talking about originally was those wages for starting hire. We'd like to get them all up to at least 20 as a base, but it's gonna take us a little bit.
Yeah, that'll take definitely some time.
So right now,
Right.
the way ours reads, the starting salary for a gatekeeper 1704.
Correct. So the proposal, it sounds like, would be for that to be gatekeeper 1, and then you want us to create a gatekeeper
Create a 2.
2, and with, in the job description,
Yes.
guidelines of what makes them a 2, and then give us a range. And then
Perfect.
therefore promote both gals to a 2 because they've performed.
Perfect.
Works.
Me and Mike can work on that together.
Absolutely. Other position was for the, and we are still working on the title for this, but I believe we are looking at a public works director
Right.
is the title for this position. we are looking to recruit for and hopefully hire somebody with ideally a background or actually a license in civil engineering, education in civil engineering with probably a heavy emphasis on managerial experience, ideally in public works. Doing an analysis of engineers in the state of Idaho, positions of that caliber throughout the state will typically range anywhere from 100 to 125,000 per year. Benefits on top of that would probably tack at least another third on top of that. Considering what the need here and of course the economy up here in Valley County, I am recommending that we budget for $125,000 per year for that position for a starting wage.
And then as discussed, freeze the other wage. There will you adjust that with Gabby?
Yes. And then, any questions on that?
No, I think that's an appropriate start. Yeah, let's just go ahead. I won't say anything. Never mind, go ahead.
The last positions you had asked me to take a look at were for the county commissioners, the salaries that you folks are making. And in discussions and doing some research on it, it appears that originally or at some point, there was an idea that the county commissioner's salaries should be at a level of 70% of the highest elected officials within the county. If that is true, and like I said, the documentation that I've seen and the discussions I've had would support that, your folks' salaries have fallen behind in that regard. And therefore, to bring you to that 70% level, I would recommend that the salaries of the county commissioners increase to $67,627.08 per year.
And it's just the other elected officials in this building. It's not the highest elected official, because
It is the elected officials. Yes, correct. Yeah, the highest elected official, you're correct, is the sheriff. But this would bring them in
prosecuting attorney is, I think. So
70% of the clerk, treasurer, and assessor.
You said it was 60 what?
$67,627.08.
So that's gonna be loaded wage about 87,000. Well, I tell you what, I think we definitely heard it.
I think it just keeps us at that. We're supposed to be working 30 hours a week. It keeps us in the, I don't know where that calculation went.
28 hours would put you at about 28. So yeah,
Okay, what else you got?
that's all I had.
So Gabby, you'll put all those inputs in and then you'll come back and let us know what we got.
Yeah, we were discussing doing one
We're hoping that we could do early Monday morning, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
and commissioners that start at 8, but I don't know.
That's the 14th.
You've got the part-time going to full-time and deputy prosecuting attorneys getting a new attorney. And that's all the salary stuff, so. And for some reason, Gabby, our stuff shows a 2% increase, and I understand that's a 6% increase. I don't know where that's off in the
No, that was,
No, so
yeah, that was,
it is more or less moving most ranges 4% within this purple, and then a 2% on top of that to keep above the ranges.
So we're adjusting the ranges at 4% and then a 2% COLA.
Correct, and we can't just do 6% increase in the spreadsheet because you got certain departments like the jail, for instance, which we are not doing 4%. We are moving them to patrol to match patrol. So we can't just do a 6% and make it look clean because not everybody is 6. So that's why I broke it out that way. Moved the range and then did the 2 on top of that.
So do we have the new prosecuting attorney plugged into this thing?
Correct, yes. In there and in the budget.
Let me pull up my spreadsheet. Kevin? All right, commissioners, this is kind of this is basically the L2 worksheet, and this is a combination of everything that's been developed all of our projected revenue, all our analysis of our remaining cash. And then you'll show the balance to be levied for each fund. The maximum amount that we can levy for, you can go to the bottom, is $9,516,865. Based on the presented proposed budget, we will be at our levy limit with what has been presented to the commissioners.
But you remember what that compares to last year was a point?
It's at, actually down by,
It's a lower levy.
last year was point
brought it
zero
just to
zero
look at it.
zero 88, and then this year's point 00084. But we do have $12 billion in value.
Yeah, last year's 0.00088384440. We're actually gonna have a lower levy rate.
I wonder if I can afford to come here.
But we do have to make some adjustments now, commissioners, with the proposals that have been submitted today. So this worksheet's gonna look a little bit differently.
So Doug, how does that work? Because, so if we take money out of ARPA and do the, I guess they're both savings accounts, I just answered my own question.
They're
So
fu-
if we
those are
buy the
funds.
ambulance out of ARPA and backfill their need out of PILT, it doesn't impact this at all, because we're not
Well-
taxing for it.
Correct, but what we'll have to do, I mean, this is where we wanna make sure that when we publish, that we're trying to publish as accurately as possible. If we have these expenditures that are made this fiscal year, then we do need to adjust these, right? For our publication notice. But if not, we have to fund it for fiscal year 2024. So if you're saying if we use some PILT funding and we utilize some ARPA dollars in fiscal year 2023, we're gonna have to reduce these.
It doesn't, it's not levied, so it's not.
It's
gonna
not levied, no. those
Reduce
aren't-
our overall levy rate, but.
Correct.
So my recommendation then, and maybe Garrett, if you have the actual numbers, but you know, that we put ARPA dollars into physical assets, one-time investments, which would be the ambulance. And then we remove that line item from your guys' request for this next year and fund the rest of it out of PILT, which is gonna take our PILT down. And I don't think we can, I'm trying to figure out on a budget how you fund it from ARPA, because if we only have $700,000 left in ARPA, we can't fund it from there, so we've gotta take it out of PILT. If it's what, 800 and
My thought was 250 for an ambulance out of ARPA, to drop the pill.
860.
The numbers you gave me are 897 from ARPA and 812 out of PILT.
If we take the
No, that's
interest money out of
not
ARPA,
that much out of ARPA. ARPA is just the ambulance.
No, $297,318 for the ambulance, that's what you told me.
right?
And that would leave us, have to come up with 812,682 out of PILT to make them solvent. Which I think is an awesome idea. That's the numbers he gave me.
812, 682 is what I saw also.
He said the ambulance was 250,000.
Clear this up a little bit. There was two different ideas.
Okay,
One is
Get him a
to
calculator.
purchase an ambulance, like order it tomorrow for $250,000,
okay,
which would drop, that would come out of ARPA, which would drop the PILT amount to the districts to 860.
860.
Yep. The other idea was to take the 99,108 that we'd asked for to put towards ambulance replacement. Take that 99,000 from each district out of ARPA, put it in the EMS fund, earmark it towards ambulance replacements, which would drop the PILT to 812, 682. It's just two different ways to.
Well, you can also remember, where did I write it down? We've got 136,000 in that fund on the side right now.
Right.
What's it, 160?
133,000 after the
103. So
second
we could
half
drop
payments
that
have been made.
tilt using that money.
But you don't wanna commit that entire amount,
No,
Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
not saying that either.
Yeah.
How much would you be comfortable committing out of that?
100?
What's that fund for, Doug?
That's for EMS district. And that was to match grants or in software for the EMS districts.
Say we took 100 of it, that would leave 33,000 in there. We've had it that low in the past.
Yeah, so if you took 150 of ARPA plus the 100 to buy an ambulance today, it would drop the total ask to 760 out of PILT.
Let's see if
So-
we can do it.
Cascades ambulance replacement funds, 49,554. Donnelly's was 99,106. And
Garrett,
McCall's is
what
99,103.
works best for you guys? I mean, you said two different ways of doing it. Which one works best for all the?
Yeah, if we
all you
do
put
the
together?
purchase the ambulance, 250 or 150 and 100, regardless, it drops that ask by 23% for each district, which would decrease the amount we each collect, but it would be offset in our ambulance replacement line
So
item.
if we pass this new district, that money doesn't stay with us, it goes with it, doesn't it?
Correct, it goes with it. That's
Right.
my understanding, yeah. Yes,
Yeah, so,
it would not go to the county. It's
Right.
specifically for the EMS district.
Correct.
Mhm.
So why would we not just buy an ambulance right now? I mean, time value of money, we don't know if the ambulance is gonna go up to 300 if you don't buy it till next year. So if you buy it at 250, you
I
have to
agree, and it's like a 2.5
outfit it.
year build time right now to
Yeah.
get one.
So I would think that we would wanna move forward and just buy it. You didn't put as much on yours, Steve. I'm assuming you're gonna, adopt whatever. I don't know which
Well, as long
place
as,
is gonna actually buy it.
right, as long as only 49,554 being taken off for the, and not the 98, whatever it is.
Got
That's
it.
just for one ambulance. I don't
So-
wanna be shorted 50 grand out of this spreadsheet I give you.
So if I add up the three of them, their asks, it's $247,768 toward ambulance purchase. And then there's gonna be some outfitting costs, correct? Another,
I don't.
No.
Gonna put everything in the current reserve ambulance into that.
Yeah, I think we can take care of the equipment and stuff.
okay.
So
So then I
Brad,
think that we
It
take
would,
the,
it would reduce, it would reduce the 277.
that's a 2.5 year build time for an ambulance? Good Lord.
Sherry, what you're
And
saying is
then-
let them keep that ambulance fund reserve that they all have. We'll buy the ambulance out of ARPA. That would just go back into their general fund, which would be less money that we'd have to take out of PILT to make up the difference.
correct,
So how
That
much,
works for me.
how much would that be for them then?
247,768 for an ambulance.
Yep.
So
We're
just
gonna-
do that.
We'll
And
pay for
then-
the ambulance, so you would keep those funds.
And then, so they're asking for, so Donnelly's asking for an additional 277,500.
So is Cascade.
Where is that ask? That amount?
And Cascade's the same?
Included in that
Cascade's
number.
the same as Donnelly.
Cascade's the same.
277.5 Donnelly and Cascade, and then 578, 774 from McCall. That's the total what they need.
Steve, where did you break out the 277,500 in your
Well,
budget?
that 716,496.66,
Includes that?
that includes that, those two numbers, I only had broke out, that was that too.
And then Garrett's was 578.
578, 578, 774. And then subtract out the 247,768. So out of Pilt, we need $886,006.
Yeah, we could
So
take.
what you got, Garrett?
We could take some of that reserve money, 100,000 of it, and put it against that,
Right.
which would knock that down even further.
What was the
Down
Pilt
to-
number you
You
said?
guys, Pilt was $886,06. And then, have you guys talked about anything needing to come out of that reserve? I mean, normally we've been saving it for down payments on ambulance, so if we're buying an ambulance. So if we take,
We have like
and Doug, there's how much in there?
$133,477.01.
it's about 9,000 total.
So if we took 100,000 out of that, out of the reserve, that'd still leave you guys 33,000 in there.
Mhm.
So Doug, our Pilt then, 786,006, and that still gets us to about 1.5 million left in Pilt as our base. Is there maybe just a little bit under that, but.
That work?
I think it'll work great.
So, on your breakdown, you just took the 49,554 out of Cascade's budget to get your number?
I just gave you 277.5,
Okay, on top of
As-
that other.
yeah, on top of the rest of it, so.
So what was that 20,000 you had on the bottom?
That was what we were in head on.
But you didn't need to add that onto your,
No, the 27, what we have on there, the 716, 496.
okay. So you guys are good with that? 886,006
Well, we'll take 100 out of.
Yeah,
the
from the
reserve,
other fund.
Plus the ambulance.
Plus
Plus
the
the
ambulance.
ambulance.
So the way I have that broke down is it just reduces each ask by 23%.
And we're gonna probably have some election costs, marketing. We can use some of that 33 to advertise and get the vote out and get people's pamphlets or whatever, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
To me, that's a good use for those funds.
Fill the boot?
No. That's specifically for muscular dystrophy.
So we'll sit down and do a budget for the new.
Yeah.
Deal right away. If it doesn't pass, guys, we gotta have some really tough questions. I mean, we have to let the taxpayers know. They're gonna determine their level of service moving forward, because we can't continue to do this. So they have to make some decisions
Is
for their
there,
own healthcare.
is there a information business out there that helps sell these levies? I mean, sell like what we're trying to get?
That's what our PR person should be able to do.
I don't know if
I think we
anybody
need to
does that.
consult with
plan.
legal, because I think we need to consult with legal at this point in time, though, commissioners,
On what part? What are you concerned about?
on if the commissioners have the ability to promote how a voter votes one way or another.
Yeah, it's informational
Good point,
only.
Doug.
It can only be information,
Can't
it
use
can't.
public funds for an election.
Well, I don't mean for us to be doing, I mean for somebody that they can get a hold of to help them pass their,
Yeah, we'll need legal to
Their
be at
levy.
that conversation coming up with budgeting.
no, we can't do that, but they can.
On the budget, did you get that, where to allocate that?
Well, right now, it's not gonna impact the budget. It's gonna be claims when they come in, but what is being presented is the fiscal year 2024 budget. So I don't think we need to make any adjustments to the budget. It's just how the commissioners want to allocate the budget dollars to support the Valley County EMS district. Utilizing PILT, utilizing ARPA, but it's not gonna change the structure of the budget, right?
Right, it's not gonna change the carryover.
They won't
We're gonna
change
do
any of
this
that.
way after the budget's approved.
before we even start talking about sending. them.
What it might change though, if you're expecting this to be done this fiscal year, but I'm hearing you say fiscal year 2024 is when these expenditures are gonna be
You're
made.
gonna want a check in October,
So, but that would be fiscal year 2024.
but you're showing the 300 out of ARPA to backfill the budget.
That's the revenue that we're collecting on interest.
Okay.
That revenue that you're seeing for the ARPA is projected revenue for next fiscal year.
No projected revenue.
Projected revenue for fiscal year 2024 for ARPA,
Okay.
interest earned is approximately 300,000.
I follow you.
Does that include the LATCF fund?
The LATC fund, we're not getting any additional funds.